What's going on, everybody? Drive time at it again on a later run than normal, but I wanted to jump in on this topic about the economy and what it would look like if we processed out a lot of illegal migrant labor. Because I see a lot of people have this idea that it will absolutely destroy the economy if you get rid of migrant labor. And the problem with that is the people who say stuff like this have zero frame of reference to make this claim. So on the one hand, it's not even surprising that people say it, because you, for lack of a better word, you're ignorant to how it works. But it's understandable and reasonable for you to think what you think and say what you say for that same reason. Most people get a job, they go, they clock in, they clock out, they collect their paycheck, and that's it. Most people have no experience with hiring, setting wages, making the wages competitive, setting product prices, making the product prices competitive, measuring product margins between one market to the next, having, to adjust price scales based on the competitive market, knowing how to not go too low to damage the market, but not go too high to bounce yourself out of it. Like, this is stuff that most people have zero frame of reference or experience with. I, however, do. And I have a strong decade of experience in it. So I'm going to give the speed run cliff notes, so hopefully at least one person that says this stuff will stop saying it. One, this idea is that nobody wants to do the job. That's just blatantly false. What it is nobody wants to do the job for half of what the job is worth to be done. And so if you have somebody with an experience and a skill set, and they know how much this job pays, or at least of what it should pay, they're not gonna want to do it for less than half of what their time is worth, just to compete with somebody who's perfectly happy doing it for less than half because of the situation that they have set up for themselves. What's the situation? Well, if you ever lived adjacent to strong, highly migrant communities, you would know that, one, their living is much more efficient. They live where we would have 3 to 4 people in a house, they would have 5 or 6 or 7. Because they are very family, very community, and they help each other out. And it's not just illegal migrants. A lot of countries do it. I learned this from being so close to the Middle Eastern community, so I just know that it's not even up for debate. I know it for a fact. I've seen it my whole life. The other thing is, when these families and people want to make money to send back to their home country, for the most part, our dollar wagers out a lot better when they send it home. So if they're paying the bare minimum utilities and they're splitting those, they don't have to work for a top tier wage, because sending it back to wherever they're from adds out to much more. So again, to not spend a ton of time, the idea of nobody wanting to do it is just false. It's that nobody wants to do a $20 an hour job for $9 to try to compete with the person who's willing to do it for $10. Other part is they'll say, oh, well, if you do this, then it's going to skyrocket the price of things. No, it won't. The reason why prices are what they are is based on a lot of things. And I can tell you what it is because, again, I've dealt with pricing products in a company. You have labor costs, material costs, overhead costs, taxes, equipment, and maybe 1 or 2 or a handful of other things that all factor into an equation. And the equation is how much it costs to run the company, how much it costs to make the product, and then how much do you have to charge to make that back plus some. The reason why product prices are what they are is because companies get mega greedy and they want to turn a 100% profit or something insane like 70, 80% profit rather than selling for 15, 20, 30% profit. And if you know anything about company structures and different companies that's been around for a while, you can do perfectly fine with a lower profit margin. If you don't believe me, look up the history and the current structure of Arizona Iced Tea. Their profit margin is low, but they still are a multi-billion-dollar company, with the adverse being something like I've had a really good example. I have to think of a really good example because I don't want to give you a flimsy one. I want to give you one that's like astronomical in what they charge and how they gouge you. Gas was one of them, but there's others. But the reason again is the medical industry is a good example. They'll charge you $200 for something that costs $20 to make it. So again, what would have to happen is the companies would have to bring their prices down to match the market, or they just wouldn't sell it. The reason why they sell it for what they sell it for is because they can, because people will pay it. But one, if they had to pay more per labor, yes, that would send their cost up. But if people can't afford it, they bring the cost down. If you want to see an example of it, go to any store that has a sale or a clearance. They did that because they couldn't sell it at regular price, so they have to sell or clearance it out. This is like all around you all the time, and it's simple math and it's simple concepts. But again, if you just used to the average rigmarole of clock it in, do the work, clock it out, click a check, then you wouldn't know. Somebody who's had to do it, I know. And the other thing is, again, the companies have to face the same structure that we do. So if we want to do a job for 15 an hour, but somebody else comes along and says, I'll do the same job for 12, then we're either stuck not doing the job or doing the job for 12, or doing the job way better for like 13, 14. Same goes for a company. If you got a company that makes shirts and another company makes shirts just like them, first company charges 20, second company charges 15, people gonna go with the 15. So then the 20 gotta come down to try to match the market. The only other way that works is when I said earlier, destroying the market, is if the company sells them for 20, another company comes along, sells them for 8. It makes it so everybody else got to try to bring theirs down to compete. And again, if you don't know this, you don't even ask. If you live in the right neighborhood and you live in the right surroundings, ask somebody who sells drugs. They'll tell you. There's a reason why a nickel bag and a dime bag of weed back in the day always cost the same. It was an unwritten rule. They always cost the same, no matter who the person was selling it. These are all the most basic fundamentals, but again, if you only do the clock in, clock out, you just won't know. But the problem is you keep talking about it when you just don't know, and it makes you look bad. So hopefully this helps a few people to stop saying some of the same stuff, because it makes you look ridiculous to those of us that know, and you just wrong. There's no other way around.